Mr. Daly? We're ready. 5 is 5, 4. Good afternoon. This is the Delaware County Interactive Gaming Revenue Authority meeting for March 17th, 2022. At 2:00 p.m., I call the meeting to order. Please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment of silence for the victims in Ukraine. This time, I'd like to welcome our new authority member, Vincent. I might mispronounce his last name a few times, Rogione. So I'd like to welcome you, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My name is Vincent Rangione, and I am the newest member here. I serve as the Chief Administrative Officer in Upper Darby Township, and I am honored to serve on this board and really looking forward to doing good work for Delaware County here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll have a roll call from our secretary. At this time, the agenda has been available publicly. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Do we have a second?
Second.
Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Agenda is approved. At this time, we'll also open the floor for public comment concerning the agenda. If we have any public comment, either here in person or online, we will receive that public comment. Thank you. You should have received the minutes for the February 2022 DeSigra meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of that? Second? Second. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion approved. Thank you. At this time, we have a special presentation for approximately 10 minutes, a question and answer for approximately 5 minutes, representing Upper Darby Township, the Parks area. We have Allison Dobbins, Deputy Administrative Officer for Upper Darby Township, and Joe Miller, a community volunteer. Please come to the roster. Welcome you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having us. We are honored to be here to share some information about what we are trying to accomplish in Upper Darby Township, particularly with focus on our parks and recreation. So if you're not familiar with Upper Darby is the sixth largest municipality in the Commonwealth. We are more densely populated actually than Philadelphia, so you often think of similar density as Philadelphia. And certainly one of the most diverse, if not the most diverse municipality in the region. We're very proud of our diversity in Upper Darby, but we also have a lot of challenges. So the status of the 19082 proper. The median household income there is $30,000. Overall, for the entire township, we're looking at a median household income of about $50,000. A foreign-born population of about 25%. For that Philadelphia, which is about 14%. Because again, people kind of think, oh, community, Upper Darby is really where it's at. And so we're really looking at parks and recreation as a great opportunity to improve the quality of life for our residents. I'm going to hand it over to Joe, who's been doing a lot of the research through the Mayor's Recreation Committee to kind of focus on parks and rec.
Miller. I've been a resident of Upper Darby for 22 years, and it's a great, great place to live. And about 18 months ago, the mayor invited me to participate on the Recreation Committee. And I was surprised, even after living there for 22 years, that we had 30 parks in the township. So there was a lot of work to do. And why do we focus on parks? Well, first, parks are essential to the health and wellness of our community. Look at diabetes. If you look at heart disease, even if you look at COVID, we have a real need to use our parks to stay healthy. We have these challenges, frequently called the social determinants of health. Not having parks is frequently listed. So it's essential to our community from a health standpoint. It's also important because it builds community. As Allison said, I think we have great diversity. The numbers are all over the place. Sometimes I've heard variations of this, but in Upper Darby High School, I think conservatively we estimate that the kids come from families that speak 40 different languages. 40 different languages. So it's really important that we build community through our parks. In addition, parks are an important place as we try to address climate change. Our parks today, our parks in the past, we never worried about shade. Right? But now with the extreme weather that we have, with the very hot temperatures that we have, shade is important. Water fountains are. Other capabilities like that are important. And in fact, there are studies that have shown that the trees and so forth in parks actually not only cool the park, but cool the surrounding community by 4 or 5 degrees during the hot times of the summer. Our parks are an asset for us. As I said, 30 parks. 20 of them are what you would think of as a larger park. Others are little small parks on corners. These parks, our parks, are within a 5 to 7 minute walking distance of every member of our township. There's no reason township members cannot access our parks. Now, the parks that we have were probably built 50, 60 years ago. And at that time, they really met the need of that community. And you can still see that today. 28 baseball games, 18 basketball. Our parks were designed for a community that loves team sports. I'm going to come back to that in a second. They're also fairly well used today, okay? Last year, we had over 100 events that we permitted. People, residents in our parks, would come to our parks and use our parks. Now, let me mention one thing. Why do residents want to use parks and need to use parks? Well, if you go through Upper Darby, you see a lot of parking. You and I might be fortunate enough to have a backyard to do a barbecue. These folks don't have a backyard to do a barbecue. They want to do a barbecue, they go to a park. And they like to, when they go to that park, find a park bench, find a grill, find maybe a pavilion where they can take advantage of shade and so forth. So, our parks are used, but they could actually be used a lot more. Now, today, we, and I would say other townships and county and so forth, face some challenges. Okay? Number one, our parks, there was a study done by the Rand Corporation in 2016 And they found that parks are only used by 4% of seniors. Now, one of the reasons for that is because our parks don't provide anything for seniors. They provide great play equipment for kids. We don't even have park benches in some of our parks. So seniors are really left out of the equation, and that's something we've got to change. The interests of our youth that used to be almost solely focused on team sports now are more diverse. They want things like skateboarding and other kinds of capabilities like that. Soccer. And it's not like we would ever get rid of our fields for team sports. This is an end goal kind of challenge. And then we have, can't really remember when we had any real serious programming. Programming attracts people to parks as well. Yoga, Tai Chi, Zumba, educational activities. But through our parks, we have a very limited number of pavilions, areas where you could actually have a program. In fact, of the 30 parks, we only have 2. So to address these challenges, we need to make, and ask for your support, for us to make greater investments in our park, our youth, our adults, and our seniors. One of the stories I'll just mention is spending a lot of time in the parks. I went to one of our parks and one afternoon, and I saw a woman, and we had a basketball court that actually was no longer, the baskets were no longer up. And she would go around that basketball court and just walk. Right? Wasn't too interesting, kind of a small space and so forth. Studies have been done. The park utilization doubles for seniors when we have a walking path. So why would we need a walking path in a community like Upper Darby? There are plenty of streets to walk on, right? But try walking down some of those streets. Alleyways with cars going in and out, uneven sidewalks. We're talking seniors. Seniors who risk falls and things like that when they're in that kind of situation. So walking paths are important, and a variety of other challenges that we have can be addressed through investment in the wonderful infrastructure and places of parks that we have, but places that need to be improved. And now I'll hand it back over to Allison.
And so I do want to follow up. I mean, the 100 events that were permitted, that's just a small fraction of the usage that our park sees. I happened to drive past Sellers, which is right next to our library. It's a densely populated, very walkable neighborhood. And last night was a beautiful day. And so I watched on the baseball diamond that is very underutilized, as team sports are hard, right? To play baseball, you need 2 teams and a lot of equipment. I was watching kids play soccer on the baseball diamond. You had large groups of people surrounding, I think, the 2 picnic tables that were actually in that park. People just spread out in the field, playing other sports. Like, it was the center of the community, right? Like, that's what we love to see. But it did make me sad to see them playing soccer on the baseball diamond. So the permitted events are just a small fraction of the usage that we see. I mean, even in 30-degree weather, there are people playing tennis at Nailers Run. It's the only 2 tennis courts available to the public in the township. So a township serving over 82,000 residents. They never stop playing tennis. And Mayor Keffer recognizes that we need to do some major investments in our parks. And so to that end, she also recognizes that as a community that is lower socioeconomic status and is already overtaxed, right? If you look at Upper Darby Township's millage rate compared to other municipalities in Delaware County, you know, we're at the top of a list that you don't want to be at the top of. And so to that end, she's really pushed us to pursue as much grant money as possible. And we've been successful. We received a $44,000 master site development planning grant for Nailers Run. Nailers Run is kind of the centerpiece of our park system. Beautiful location. It has the tennis courts. It has, it's where our picnic groves are, except there are no pavilions in Nailers Run. And so that is an area that we look forward to developing a strong site plan with strong community input, but then we'll have to find the dollars to fund that. The second grant that we received from DCNR was $250,000 for Observatory Park, where we hope to build a skate park, invest in a walking path. We'll of course need to match those dollars and fund any gap between the plan that we have and the money that's been provided through the grant. To show her commitment to investing in our parks, we set aside this year $450,000 of our CDBG funds for the Second Ward Playground. The Second Ward Playground is in, again, the 6th District of Upper Darby, a very densely populated, lower socioeconomic area. And $450,000 may just cover everything that we need to do there. But again, it's not going to build us the pavilions that they want. I think it covers one. The community has expressed at community meetings that they would like to see at least 3. Again, because as Joe mentioned, these are not neighborhoods where you have the huge backyard to host a family barbecue. We were very fortunate to receive 2 grants from the county. One to do the $100,000 is to do the park's open space master plan, so an overall plan for all 30 of our parks in addition to green spaces. And then $407,000 to focus on the Darby Creek Trail. So again, as we continue to invest in our parks, we're also looking at trail development throughout the township. So overall, that's about $1.2 million that we've been able to gather, and it still is not enough. When you look at some of the basic needs in terms of picnic tables and pavilions and walking paths, pickleball is something that is popular with seniors and is also popular with like everyone. I was at some 30-year-olds had a birthday party for their kid and the dad's talking about pickleball. And I didn't want to be like, oh, I thought only seniors played that. I didn't say it, I was very nice, but I was like, oh, that's kind of exciting. Like that means that Upper Darby building a pickleball court is not just for seniors. This is now something the whole community wants. Like he was like, well, wait, why are you building one? I'm like, whoa, like, it's a potential in a site plan. We have to find the money. And those are just small things that could greatly improve the quality of life for our residents. Is there anything? All right, are there questions?
Questions?
So if you wanted to put another pavilion in the Second Ward playground, what would it cost?
So our conservative estimate is about $30,000 per pavilion. We do have the fortune of having a public works department that can provide a lot of the labor for some of these things. But in my mind, right, pavilion should be very expensive, except there's grading and other concerns and paving. And certainly if you have a pavilion, then you want to make sure it's ADA accessible. And so the conservative estimate is about $30,000.
It's hard for me to listen to your presentation and not start stealing from your presentation. I'm a city council person in the city of Chester, and I head the Department of Parks and Rec. So listening to your presentation sounds like me making my presentations almost every day. We're definitely in the same ballpark. So much so that I'm looking to bring in pickleball courts and skateboard facilities for the same reasons that you are.
Yeah, I mean, a skate park, and I think we probably are both working with the Delaware County Skate Park Coalition. But
No, but I'm going to get with you so I'll know who to work with.
Yeah, we'll make sure.
So maybe I should stand out there and lobby my own board here and see if I can get some of this parks money. But I will say that this is something that we were, having on the radar to help improve parks and playgrounds. So your timing couldn't have been more perfect. You've got a empathetic ear here. And if for no other reason, I just want to connect with you guys because we're definitely facing the same issues for every reason that you guys brought out here, we have to kind of upgrade our parks and playgrounds. The deferred maintenance for years is just appalling. It's going to take a lot of effort to bring them up to speed. But if we were, let's just say, in the grand scheme of things, if there was a pot of gold on the stage right there, what would you do first? What would be your top 3 priorities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's put a dollar amount on it. If you were given $25,000 in a couple of months, what would you spend it on?
$25,000. So I think $25,000, then we would certainly be looking at, I think probably still the walking path, right? I mean, so what we kind of left out as we were pressed for time, we conducted an extensive kind of community survey. The Recreation Committee visited every single one of our parks and did a basic site assessment, and it kind of provided a complement to what the assessment done by the official, like safety, all the ways that our playgrounds are unsafe that we will need to address as well. But what the Recreation Committee was really focused on was what is missing, what currently exists, how is the community using it? And so purposely went to each park, so all 30 spaces, each park at different times of day, different times during the week to kind of gauge how the community is using it. So, right, because who's using it on a Wednesday afternoon, on a school day, on a work day is actually different than who's using it in the afternoon on a Saturday. And they did a really great job of interacting with the community and really getting input. And I would agree that walking path was probably something was consistently heard in interacting with our own residents.
Which park? A walking path at which park?
Yeah, that would get a little, yeah. I can think of 3.
Which is our largest park, it has a road that goes through. And that's not a good place for
Sure.
Scully, which is in the Heights direction, or Township, is another one. The pavilions, almost at each of our parks. Taylor's Run is a 40-acre park that does not have one pavilion. So, if you're coming with your family, have an outing, and it starts to rain.
Yes.
Right.
But Scully there also, there we go down the
Yeah. And just to clarify a few things, if I could, that park assessment that you mentioned, was that a grant-funded project or was that a volunteer project
That was a volunteer project.
by the Mayor's Recreation Committee? Would you be willing to share that assessment with the board?
Certainly.
Okay, that would be fantastic. I think it would be really helpful for the board to get that kind of picture. When it comes to, I think you can see this from some of the questions being asked, you mentioned a couple of planning grants. I think funders like to know that they're not just throwing things out there scattershot. So I also think it would be helpful if you have any of these plans that you'd be willing to share with the board so that we could see with specificity where these things might actually fit into the plan. If you would be willing to do that, I think that would be very helpful.
Yes, absolutely. So those 2 planning grants are still out to bid. And that's actually one of the reasons why we focused on the specific things that we did is because of the 30 parks, we're certainly not going to be able to do site development at every single one. We have a sense of how the overall planning grant is going to work in terms of the overall Parks and Space Master Plan. And so the 4 things that we were really looking at are all things that are very easy, right? Like if there's a couple locations that a walking path could go that would certainly not impact any sort of major plan that is coming from these grant-funded studies. Certainly picnic tables and even a pavilion can all be worked into the existing thing, because I think that's one of the challenges with these grants is you apply for a grant, and I'm sure you've experienced this. You apply for a grant, it takes you 8 months to get a response on the grant. Then it takes another 3 months to put it out. And so now it's 2 years later, and an idea that people were really passionate about and have seen no movement on in 2 years, it's hard to talk about that with a community that is like, but you were here 3 months ago and a year ago talking to us, and we already told you we need picnic benches and pavilions. And so what we were really looking for is something that's more like, okay, we can immediately address and be responsive to the community in a way that they're really looking for and need.
They've come to the right place, right?
Well, I think you're in addition to pavilions costing a little bit more than you might think, that even benches, if you ordered, 5 benches for every single one of your parks, you're talking 150 benches times a lot of money per bench to have a really good, sturdy, weather-resistant, comfortable, it's more than people realize. So this is helpful. So you mentioned you got the planning grant for Naylor's Run, but they haven't done the plan yet.
No, so that process is out to bid, and we're working through the process of selection.
Okay.
Anyone else with questions or comments?
And the only other question I would ask is that we did have somebody come in from the county to talk about some of their intermodal work, intersections and that sort of thing. But there's also the whole county parks group. And can we assume that the planning you're doing is sort of in concert with what this county is thinking about? I see you said you did get an overall planning grant from the county.
Yes, and I'm also honored to serve on the Green Space Task Force for the county, so I'm actually very involved in kind of the overall picture and very aware of what the county is doing, and it's actually helped a lot in my work at Upper Darby.
Okay, I have a few questions. And I'm a recreation guy.
Okay.
I served on the recreation board for Prospect Park for 4 years, coached baseball for 30 years. I've coached baseball since 1990. I'm not done yet. But I just have a few questions. Are the parks limited or restricted to Upper Darby residents only?
No, certainly
Okay.
not.
So if the police come, there's a complaint, they're not going to say, you're from Aston, you're not allowed here.
No.
Okay. And you mentioned pickleball, but you also mentioned that there are a lot of foreign-born population residents. Are there other sports? We know soccer is an international sport, and we call it football in other countries. But are there other sports that kind of rose up that there's interest in that Upper Darby doesn't have the facilities to facilitate playing of that sport?
Yeah, so soccer, it's interesting, certainly as Upper Darby's population has changed over the last 20, 30 years. It's why we have, not that, my kids play softball. I appreciate everything you do, especially coaching. But like Sellers is in the 4th district, it's in like the Highland Park area of Upper Darby. That population has certainly changed, where I was sure that baseball diamond that exists in that park was probably wildly popular 40 years ago, and now they're using it to play soccer. Because that's right, we don't necessarily have the facilities that we need for the population that we have. And so through the park assessments that the Recreation Committee came along and did, we found that there's a park, Chapman Park, it's like hidden in kind of like the lower end of the township. There's like a volleyball club that came, Ethiopian? Which group was that? I forget. Yeah. Who knew? I wouldn't have expected to stumble along a very energetic group of people committed to playing volleyball.
I'll ask 2 more questions because I want to be brief. Do you have multi-purpose, and I don't know how this fits in with the green initiatives, artificial surface playing facilities as well?
We do not,
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
So it's either a baseball field or a softball field or a football field. You don't have multi-purpose facilities.
Yeah.
Okay, not at this time. And no artificial surface facilities.
Like cinder tracks.
a cinder track. I'm trying to just double check in my head. I don't.
But I should say that communities make parks.
Yeah, that's really.
Soccer.
Am I-
Yeah. So
Okay,
I guess
I'm
I
sorry.
should expand. So the 69th Street Recreation Area, which again is it's like now my favorite park in the township. Super walkable neighborhood. It's where, I mean, we did a census event there and you could just see the neighborhood come out because they can walk there. It has 3 baseball diamonds, and the 69th Street Wildcats, which is the football team, is like, we have to like draw our own lines, and it's very weird. And we're like, yeah, we will try and figure out a way to fund and create a real football field, because these are people that even within our own township, they'll play against the 69th Street Wildcats, will play against the Drexel Hill Raiders and be like, hey, when I go to that field, they have a real field. How do we get a real field? And so we're trying to build that equity within the township.
All right, I think you answered my other question for me, but thank you. Thank you. This has been very informative, very interesting, and we look forward to keeping the conversation open with you.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're free to stay, or if you want to leave, it's up to you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for their feedback and their questions. All right, so let's move forward. At this time, we'll have the treasurer's report from Stephen Roots.
Okay, hello. March 2020 Treasurer's Report. We received a quarterly payment. We love these quarterly payments. They seem to increase every quarter. This one was for $60,729.85. We earned a whopping $1.56 in interest. And we also had some of our last group of grant checks clear. So just going through the numbers, our opening balance, $146,793.61. The only deposit was the quarterly payment of $60,729.85, our interest payment of $156. Of the checks that we paid or that cleared, that totaled $16,954.62. So on the February ending balance, it was $207,525.02. This statement was created on March 16th. So many of the checks that we gave out for grants last month and one payment to our web vendor brings us a current balance of $190,570.40.
Thank you. Any questions for Stefan concerning the treasurer's report? I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, go ahead.
Doesn't change any of this. But do we have, how many outstanding checks do we have at this point? Do you have any?
Yes.
I
did
think there were
15?
I think there were 13
13.
I'm going to get to that in a second, but I think there were 13 EMS organizations. So if you look at it looks been cleared. So there may be about 5 more.
Okay.
Some of those were presented in person, and there's going to be another presentation next week. Can you give us an audit update?
Audit update. So I put a spreadsheet together of all of our expenses and all of our deposits. That spreadsheet's going to be sent over to our auditor, and he's going to help figure out what categories to put into QuickBooks. And it's going to be a pretty quick process to do our audit for 2021. And thankfully, I got the work done to put the spreadsheet together, so everything's falling right into 2022 using the same spreadsheet. And Francis, I will share that spreadsheet with you.
Sure. I actually happened to have a conversation with the auditor yesterday because we still don't have the information. And he told me that they're running a little behind, but he promised
And just as the new guy, who is our auditor? Ah, yep.
Thank you. And our audit is going to roll up to the county's audit for Delaware County.
Understood.
And they've reached out to us, and Francis and Stefan have been responsive. So thank you for continuing.
But we
on
still
that
need to
process.
have our own audit, even though it's gonna roll on.
Yes. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. All right, so let's move forward to our solicitor's report. He's going to give us an update on the PA ethics forms, and some of this he's done via email. And you can give a brief statement about the county IT response about the Google Drive. I think we may explore something else with that, and any other updates you'd like to provide to us.
Okay, as the chairman mentioned, the State Ethics Committee Statement of Financial Interest form, which was emailed to everybody, needs to be completed. And a copy is, the original actually goes to the county clerk, Ms. Coogan. If people would like to send their completed form to me, I will walk it to Ms. Coogan's office, have a timestamp for a copy, and return it to you for your records. Many of you have filled this out before, if you've held any elected or appointed positions. We are what's known as a public official, and it's an office that we hold. The form looks backwards. What you are filing by April 30th, 2022 is for the year ended December 31st, 2021. You have to be careful when you read the information that they're requesting. For example, you see real estate. The first thing you do is write down your home. So if you read the fine print, it says real estate leased or otherwise utilized by a Commonwealth political subdivision. And not many of us have that. And just when you think that, oh, most of my things are exempt, there's ones like credit cards. If you have over a $6,500 balance on a credit card, it has to be disclosed. So read the fine print. And, this is an annual statement that has to be filed each and every year. All right. We adopted a policy for conflicts at the last meeting. I reminded the board that we, including me, each have to fill out the form indicating that you have received the policy and that you're agreeing to be bound by it. Most of you have already done that and sent it to our secretary. I just asked that our secretary share a copy with me so we have two different places where they could be. Not that I think that would happen, but the secretary himself could end up in a conflict situation. So it's good that that there are two repositories for that. I did not get too far with the Google Drive. I will confess, I'm not really that familiar with it. Had to do a little bit of research, etc. Sounded to me like something that should be simply added to our website. Turns out not so simple. Also, as per the chairman's request, I did contact my counterpart, Jonathan Lichtenstein of the solicitor's office, who basically picked it up to county council. And ultimately, the recommendation is have our chairman talk to our liaison with county council and see if there's any compatibility we could move forward there. If we are going to use our own website designer, and I don't mean to step on the toes of the report on the website, but they have a number of questions, which I think I forwarded on to Stefan and to the chair, that they will need answers. So I kind of felt like what's the cliche, a can of worms. What it boiled down to, with me being the worst person to be the liaison because I don't understand it to begin with. So I will leave that in more capable hands. And that's all that I have.
So in other organizations on the board, they're trying, the best practices is not to distribute attachments via email for privacy and security reasons.
Okay.
So many of those boards are now moving towards some type of shared system, whether it's Google Drive and they're sending the link for the Google Drive and all the materials are there, or there's some other type of internal system. Now, I do know, and you may know too, given your expertise in this area, there's something known as Google Drive for nonprofits. So I might explore that, and that might be something that we can do. But I was looking to see if it could be housed within the county because of the board changeover that we're going to have over a period of time. But it may be something that we have to set up on our own, and as people roll on and roll off, we just have to share the access information.
I would think that's what's going to happen. I mean, you already set up a Google Drive for all of us to be able to see the proposals.
Well, that was a shared document, but it's not a separate drive. So I'm looking for a separate drive.
Oh,
because
an account.
if I
like
put
a-
everything in there and have it
Okay.
shared with, it's going to use up my own personal.
Okay, so we could just
storage.
set up a zigra@gmail.com account and with a password that we all, and then share documents in that,
Right.
create files in that.
And there's a tool from, I haven't looked at it fully, but there's a tool from Google called Google Drive for nonprofits. I believe it's free, and it might fit our needs.
Yeah.
And it might give us even more functionality.
Sure, we could put minutes in there, Stefan could put financial reports in there. I think that's a great idea.
Right. Just to reduce the number of attachments that we share within our personal and our professional.
Smart. Okay.
Any other questions for the solicitors or any other updates on any other items, Mr. Bailey?
Not for me.
Thank you. Let's continue. Old business is emergency services grant update. And I put on here for myself, max 2 minutes, and I wrote some notes, so I'm gonna try and keep it to 2 minutes. The checks have been distributed via the mail, and we also did some in-public presentations throughout March. Thank you for letting me be your spokesperson in doing those. Been getting a lot of postings on Facebook as I've been doing them. Live presentations occurred in Brookhaven, Collingdale, Prospect Park, and Eddystone, and next week in Chester. Mr. Root sits on Chester City Council, so he will not be able to do the presentation, but Councilman Womack will be there, and I may try to accompany him to make that presentation. So there were 13 organizations, emergency services organizations with a total of $26,084.22 that were awarded these grants from the fourth quarter. So they were received in the fourth quarter. We approved them in January or February, and then County Council approved them, and they were distributed. The distribution process started in March and will be completed this month. As far as this quarter, the first quarter of 2022, as far as the applicants that have come in, one organization submitted separate applications for reimbursement and a grant. So we will just include the reimbursement, and I'll put the grant on a waiting list for the second round, if we do a second round, because those are the rules of the grant. Some organizations also requested payment of overtime salary. So I'm a little concerned about that, because if we start accepting grants for overtime salary, we'll probably be able to give out 1 or 2 grants a year. So I don't think we're going to be able to do that. So I'll be making a recommendation on that. Another organization submitted an app for a second small reimbursement amount due to a delay in receiving receipts. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. The receipts came in late, so they did one small grant, and now they're asking for another one. But it was in the same calendar year. I've been pushing the applications to emergency services organizations over the last few days, and will continue to do so we can get up to approximately $24,000, which would complete the first round of the $50,000. And if we receive applications after we get to that $50,000, I'll just move them to a waiting list for the second round. And I'll also make some minor changes that I talked about in February to the rules for the second round, maybe as early as next month. So next month on approximately April 1st or the 2nd, I will make all of the applications available and known to you along with recommendations. And then I'll make a motion at our April meeting to approve the organizations for the, hopefully the balance of this round for the EMS grants. And Vince, just to let you know, this part of our mission and our mandate is we provide grants for or funding for nonprofit organizations, economic development, and municipal police emergency services. So we created a grant specifically for police, fire companies, fire departments, town watch, ambulance services, and fire police. And we started that process in the fall. And some of them applied, we've awarded some of them, and now we still have some left over in that round that we're trying to exhaust.
And is that application process still open or is it closed?
It's still open. They have to send they have to request, well, I've sent some out sporadically, but the entity has to request an application from us through our email. Our email is info@thesigra.org.
Understood. Thank you.
Info@thesigra.org. And once I check that website like twice a week, and when I receive those requests, I send them out an application. Any questions or comments for me?
So and this is also for Stefan. So we have about $10,000 in outstanding checks then from the 5 folks we awarded to who have not cashed their checks, and then the shared check of $25,000 that went out but hasn't been cashed yet either.
No, we didn't send the share check out. That,
We haven't printed this yet.
But we approved
We
it.
approved it, yes.
Did we approve anything else that we haven't sent a check
The
for?
Delaware County.
Oh, we haven't sent that yet either.
What do you know?
Delaware County Community College, the
Okay.
Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion
Okay.
project.
Okay. So that's 40,000 that we committed, just hasn't been either sent or cashed. So that takes us down to 150. Then we
But
have,
we're gonna get some money in April.
of course, and then we have the balance of 24,000 for EMS. That is going to, and then we have committed up to $100,000 for children's programming.
Yes.
That is, we're opening when the website goes live,
Right.
is what we decided our last
And
meeting.
he's gonna give an update on the website.
Okay. So that takes us to 30, 40, 54, 154 off of so that takes us down to 46,000 uncommitted. And then, as you said, approximately another 60 will come in. So,
And we have to make sure we can pay Frank.
of course, our usual bill. So I only say this because we've, I think, done a really super job of doing the initial children's programming and then EMS, and we're going to do another round of children. But I would say that before we make any commitment to do an additional round for EMS, that we think about, the Parks and Playgrounds funding. We've got several proposals for community and economic development that I know the Foundation for Delaware County is considering, that we talked about possibly taking a look at as well. So I think we'll have a good meeting in May. So in April, we're going to do the final 24, but then in May,
Possibly.
we can talk about some community and economic development, parks and playgrounds sort of stuff. Good, super.
And
Thank
I'm-
you, everyone. Any other comments or questions? I'm just being cognizant of the time.
Yeah, sure. Just one other quick one. You mentioned when the website goes live, and I'm just trying to get up to speed. Do we have a timeline on that?
He's gonna talk about that now.
Oh, beautiful.
All right, let's get a course vector web services update from.
so Vince, the official answer is the website is live. Unfortunately, it's not live with all the content the way we want it to be.
Understood. Okay.
All right. So we're working with the vendor remotely, and I never realized how tedious this process is. It's a lot of back and forth emails. It's not the preferred way to work with a website vendor, but we're chipping away at it. We are to the point now of just finalizing the look and feel, and adding content to where it should go. There's not much more I need to give them other than some of the newer pictures from the award presentations recently. I have to admit, I forgot the thank you notes, so I have to get those up to them. When I send that information, I think I'm as clear as can be and everything's going to fall into puzzle pieces. And then they intelligently come back and say, maybe it wasn't so clear. Let's be a little clearer. So it's a constant pickleball game going back and forth, but we're getting closer. So officially the website's open. It's not one of these situations where we have a test site going and then it goes live when we're saying, hey, let's flip the switch, we're good. I don't think we have a lot of people visiting our site, but I haven't asked them to gather any site statistics either. So it's an ongoing process. I'll just say that we're still in an exchange mode of information and concepts, but it does look a lot better than it does when we were here not too long ago. Well, I guess our last meeting. The other issue that we have to be cognizant of is running out of money. So we were pretty close to our limit with regard to the amount of hours that they would dedicate to putting our website together. And I know, Paul, you sent them a note and they gave you kind of a summary of where we were. We might need to revisit that one more time just to see where we were, because I think we were down to, was it 4? How many hours was it?
4 or 2 hours or something like that.
How many?
I thought it was like 2 hours.
Yeah, it was down to a level that unless I'm working right over your shoulder, it's hard for me to justify, the amount of time that they put in based on the stuff that we gave them. But again, I'm not looking over their shoulder. So.
So can I make a suggestion about simplifying this? I don't think we need to put thank you letters up. I mean, we've got to get this live and looking presentable, but I don't know anybody who puts, maybe you could put a quote up, but
Yeah,
I don't think we need to put thank you letters up. If I send you a thank you letter, I'm not expecting it to be on the website. In fact, I might not want you to put it on the website, depending on what I say. The less we give them, that's not really important, so we can get to our limit with only the things that are most important.
I think he was just going to put a segment of a couple thank you letters up, not the actual thank you letters, correct?
I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
I've done like website design and this stuff. To me, I guess the way I do it, it's a real simple drop and drag, but
Okay.
it seems like to them, it's a little more effort. So to your point, if that type of stuff can wait, then it should. I do want to ask a question because Paul, thank you so much. You came over the house, you helped me sort some stuff out. You gave me some information, so that was a big push to get some data out there. But I think we may, as a board, have different opinions as to some of the content that should go up. So let's just talk about agendas. In the same spirit of what you just said, Francis, do we really need to put agendas up from last year? Could the minutes serve as, okay, and that's kind of what we decided there. The other one that I think might take a little bit of chat is our treasurer reports. Should they be there or should not? I've heard from 2 different sides here, so let's make a decision today.
If it's the only financial record, I don't think they, yeah, the audit is really what needs to go up online.
Okay.
Ron, were you going to say something?
The treasurer's report's also mentioned in the minutes, so
That's true. Good
Okay.
point, Ron, good point.
All right. So again, in the spirit of limiting how much stuff we're giving them to put up, I'm a little surprised they didn't go to our photos up. They want to know where each picture goes. And I'm like, no, there's a slider there. Just throw them on the slider.
Oh, we're
and
going to have to
watch
get a
them
picture
go.
of Vincent.
Yes, thank you.
Oh,
We
the
need a
bio.
headshot and a short bio.
Very good.
And you can send that to me directly.
Okay.
So I'll make sure you have my address if you don't already.
So are you saying, Stefan, that the website is ready for us to advertise the children use, the RFP for?
Well, I think we should look at it first. Like all of us individually look at it and maybe give Stefan some.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe we'll get one more set of eyes on it.
And they said clear your cache in case you looked at it before, so you can see the most updated one. But it seems like it's close to
It's getting close. Yeah, we're,
What is the address again?
the supermarket.
.org, got it.
So it sounds like we said we weren't gonna advertise the children's and grants that we just approved last month, so the website was ready to go. It sounds like we're virtually there. Just, just someone.
yeah, a lot of it's just cosmetics and getting some last bit of data on there. I don't think I have to look at it again. It's just so many little pieces. It's hard to.
That's not on there, correct? Not yet.
That's what I was thinking. I don't think that's on there
Okay.
because we were kind of late.
Well, I don't think it's anything that we have to make a motion and launch the website and put it on there. I think if we get a consensus among ourselves that, hey, Stefan, this looks great,
Mhm.
we can post it and then we could just notify Frank to make the advertisement.
Mhm.
Would you agree, Mr. Dale? Okay.
We wanted to do this by the 1st of April, right? And I think
Say that
that's,
again? Well, we said around.
yeah, so I
We
think
said
that's very doable.
And let me just ask a question for our solicitor. The agendas, I'm guessing that we need to put those up there once we do make the website publicly available, and the county may or may not continue to publish the agendas, correct? Okay.
But then it can be taken down after the meeting because the agenda is not relevant after.
I was just kind of saying.
I'm sorry.
All right.
And there's the outstanding question of how much control are we going to have once this website is up in putting up and removing data. So still have to figure that part out.
Okay. So we need to see if we physically can do it ourselves, or if we're going to have to pay them a fee, and they're going to do it on an ongoing basis. Okay, we can talk about that. Thank you. Yeah, he's done a lot of work. I thought it would be a little bit easier, but everything that he's getting is essentially an email, and it's an email of list of things. And like when I glance at them, I get lost in the details. And I don't know. We may have to look at this going into the future if we want to still continue to operate in this format. And I was just thinking, I was like, there's a web developer right down the street from me. We could have done it, but this is an expert in this field, and I guess it works, and it was affordable. But hopefully, the details will be limited in the near future after we have it up and running. Okay. Any new business? I'll make a comment. Sean asked that we move our meeting to the 14th or the 28th
Of April?
of April. Does anybody have an issue with either of those dates? I would prefer the 14th so that we could approve the grants and I could get them to a county council meeting later that month and get the checks out late April or early May.
That's fine.
Is everybody okay with the 14th?
Yeah, that should work.
Yeah, I think I checked that before.
Stefan?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Frank, can you? Sean, 2 o'clock here on the 14th. Do we have this room, or do you know if it's another room?
I am. I'm looking at that now just to check, but I believe this room is available. Give me 1 second. I'll confirm.
Okay, no problem. So we have to do an advertisement to change the date, correct? Right?
While Sean is looking for that, this is not exactly new business, but it's new business for me. I just wanted to express my thanks to the board for providing a grant to the Share Food Program. They're a tremendously worthy organization that does phenomenal work across the county. So while I wasn't here for that decision-making process, I'm very happy to be a part of an organization that's supporting their work.
Thank you. That's definitely. I gotta thank Francis for, she's our liaison for a lot of these special grants and projects, and she's been doing a great job steering some of these prisons to sport consideration. So I gotta give her kudos.
Mr. Chair,
Alright.
on the 14th, the room upstairs will be available for you. I can book that now if you like.
But not this room.
Not this room, upstairs on the second floor.
Okay, that's fine.
Council conference room.
Conference room.
Correct. Also, on the note of the website, I don't know if you would like to have your meeting, like your stream, to go there as well or not. Let me know. We can talk offline about what we want to do with the future of where the YouTube streams go. If they go to your new website or if they continue to stay on your website at the county.
I would say at the county, and although, no, I mean, even though the link is long, you know, we could, I'm looking to give them the link. In fact, they linked to, what you'll see if you go to our website now, they link to the county's
The YouTube
page with
page
all the
on-
videos.
Yeah, it goes to the homepage as it is now.
Yeah,
Just check
and then
it out.
you'd have to search on that page to get to our videos. But if we give them the link to where our videos is, it's like that one little box with the 18.
Yeah, the playlist. If I can give them the YouTube or the URL for that, that might be a little simpler. For
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a problem at all.
Well, you can send that one to me then. Thanks.
Will do.
All right.
Okay.
The playlist, that's what it's called.
Thanks everyone for being patient. I just have a couple more things. I'd like to ask Vince to work with Stefan and Francis on, and I think this relates to what the presentation that was today, because we did have some discussion about a recreation facilities grant. So I'd like Vince to work with Francis and Stefan and explore a grant for that program and maybe bring it to the next meeting as a motion that we could put on. And I think that, yes.
One word of caution, you appoint the 3-member committee.
Oh,
It has to be sunshine.
okay.
Sunshine law.
And I would make another suggestion, because I think that you're gonna have at the May meeting about 7 or 8 projects that are, some of which are parks projects that are around community and economic development. I would suggest that we encourage Joe and that we take a look at that, and that Joe and Allison submit a 2-page proposal for what they would use $25,000 or $30,000 for. That Stefan, whoever on your team that you're working with in Chester, submit a proposal. There are already proposals that we're going to be looking at that have to do with the Chester Historical Society. And who else is on the list? I think they should all be looked at together and prioritized, because we do not have a lot of money right now. We've committed all but 45,000, and we're going to have some bills. We haven't paid our web developer in full yet. I don't think we paid them much of anything yet. So I think we can slow things down a tiny bit, but I like the idea of Stefan coming in with something, Vincent, your team coming in with something, us looking at it in the context of a variety of different projects that are going on in the county. So that would be my suggestion. And maybe in April, at the April board meeting, we move through the balance of the EMS grants. Maybe we'll have our next quarter check-in, maybe more than 60,000. We may have more that we think we can be comfortable funding.
Yeah,
Just a thought. And we also have our budget. I would suggest this is the point in the year where we take a look at the budget document that we all looked at way back when, and where are we? Is it turning out to be what we thought it was going to be?
yeah, I guess my thinking was with the special projects, kind of like the things that are coming.
Like share.
They're more county-wide, or the next thing that you're gonna bring in next month will benefit multiple communities. Whereas, and I guess the reason for the recreation grant idea was so Upper Darby could apply, so Chester could apply, but we could also make it available to some other communities that
Yeah.
would want to get into that pot of money, and that pot of money might be 100,000. Maybe we can give Upper Darby 25, Chester 25, and the other 50 a month. Some other, I don't know. So, all right, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sounds good.
Just some other items, and then we'll be ready to go. The Delaware County Community College check presentation is pending. They were on school spring break. Sydney is going to get with either you or myself to talk about us making a check, I believe, on campus. They have an event at the end of March, and they're going to include the cigarette as a sponsor for that event. We don't have a logo, but that's another story. But at least they're going to mention our name.
Well, I'm looking at the Upper Darby, Pennsylvania logo.
It looks good enough for you.
I said, we need to steal something real quick.
All right.
Sure does.
But we'll make people. I guess what I'm saying is, if you would like to participate in that presentation on campus, I'll make you aware of it, and you're more than welcome to attend. And the Share Food Program check presentation, I believe, is on April 6th at County Council meeting at 6 o'clock. And you're more than welcome to attend that as well. And I will also send that out via email. Any other new business before we move on? Yes.
On housekeeping, do we have a formal motion to reschedule the meeting from the 21st to the 14th?
Sure. This is.
I need a motion to authorize me.
Okay, and unfortunately, we didn't have this on the agenda because we weren't sure, so this is an emergency motion, and I think it's permittable by the new laws. So I make a motion to authorize our solicitor to change the date of our regularly scheduled April meeting to April 14th. And, can I do and? And to authorize our solicitor to advertise that change date.
So moved.
All those
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Any other new business, real quickly? Public comment?
There is no public comment from the internet, sir.
Okay. Authority comments. Anyone from the authority would like to make a comment concerning today's meeting?
Welcome to our new member.
Thank you very much.
Great meeting as always. Everybody participated. Thank you everyone for your work. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
All right.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.